everybody. Welcome to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim Jousman. With me, I've got...
Kim.
Kim what?
The geek. I'm just...
You sound so excited.
I know it's my Twitter handle, but I just prefer Kim. It's short and sweet and to the point.
Okay.
Unlike me. I'm not short, and I'm only sometimes sweet. I'm more like semi-sweet, like semi-sweet chocolate.
Oh, you're always sweet. Stop that.
Just to you.
Everybody else, fuck them. What a week. We've had an impeachment process that's totally
Bullshit.
foobarred and bullshit. And yeah, and not the first time an impeachment process has gone this direction. I did learn that Andrew Johnson, the first person who was impeached, was down to one vote as well, and he bought that vote off. That's how he, ended up getting off. So it's we got a lot of work to do to fix this, but that means everybody and their mother needs to go out and vote. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, we need to do what we can to get this person out of office so that we can begin to make things better, so that we can get back to normal, to where it's the normal petty squabbling that you would have between Republicans and Democrats. This is a unique situation in our history.
It is. It's unique, and it's ridiculous that someone so supremely unqualified and who's just such a terrible person in general is actually the president of our United States.
It makes me long for the days of Sarah Palin. That's how bad this is.
Yeah, it makes me miss the Bushes.
Yeah,
because say what you will about the George Bushes and their policies and everything, at least they were basically decent human beings.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe most politicians are the mustache twirling types, and throughout the history of the Bush family, like George H.W. Bush, the original, his father actually tried to take over the United States government. Oh. And basically what happened, they contacted this general by the name of Smedley Butler, who has this great booklet against war called War is a Racket, where he talks about how pretty much every single war experience he went through was at the behest of businesses. Yeah. And what they tried to do was take over the government by, having him, essentially move FDR out of the way. But Smedley Butler was a patriot, did the right thing, told the public, and of course nothing happened to those rich businessmen. Prescott Bush, that was a bad Bob Hope impression, but Prescott Bush played a lot of golf with Bob Hope. And then we, of course, know the history of George H.W. Bush, led the CIA for a while during the time of the Kennedy assassination. No. It led the CIA, he was the CIA director for the latter part of Nixon, early part of Ford, I believe. But he was a congressman in Texas, but still had some association with the CIA and whatnot. So did a lot of bad things there.
Okay, maybe they aren't decent human beings. I guess I'm just thinking in terms of they overtly, basically overstepping their bounds. I don't know. Trump's just a terrible person. I don't really want to talk about him anymore.
No, they realized at the end of the day that there is an importance to the role of president, whether you're a Republican or Democrat. Take 9/11. George W. Bush did a great job at 9/11.
There's just a certain dignity that the office of the president should have. And Trump has no dignity. He's basically in it for himself. He's trying to get as much as he can.
Not basically, he is. I mean, he's all but admitted that on national television, and his cult members don't care.
And that's just terrible. If you care about the United States, it's obvious that Trump has committed treason at the very least. And I just don't understand how his supporters can just turn a blind eye to someone who's so obviously corrupt and is just a terrible human being?
Because he's one of them. He's, enacting laws that benefit them, and the Republican Party, just all they care about is remaining in power.
But when he's enacting laws that benefit them, who are the them? Because his base supporters, all the quote-unquote rednecks and such, they're not benefiting from his policies. They're not the rich people who are getting all the tax breaks.
They're not, but they would what's that old saying about don't smite your eye or something like that? They would much rather, hurt themselves than give minorities, the LGBTQ community, people different from them, the same advantages that they have. They would rather hurt themselves than have that happen. That's just a fact.
And that's terrible. That's a terrible way to live. I don't understand. And honestly, just thinking about it, it makes me really sad and upset. And so I'd rather we just move into what we're going to talk about today.
Okay. At the end of the day, though, it is still important to vote no matter what.
Oh, yeah, definitely vote.
November, vote your ass off. Vote once, vote often. No, kidding.
Vote your legal amount.
Yeah. Anyway, we had a passing in the entertainment industry again this week.
Another one.
Yeah. This time, it was a person that a lot of people may not recognize the name, but he definitely had a major impact in pop culture today, and his influence is still felt. And that's Fred Silverman.
Tell us about Fred.
Okay, Fred was a television executive. Started off, his first TV job after college was working at WGN, and I found out that he started their Bozo show at WGN. And the reason I mentioned that... Yeah, the reason I mentioned that, now in certain... Bozo was licensed out, so in different parts of the country, you would have different actors playing Bozo. Grand Rapids had their own Bozo, but we had, with WGN being a superstation, we had access to the Chicago show, and the Chicago show was bigger. It felt bigger. It felt, whatever. But, he moved on to CBS and he became head of programming at CBS, one of the youngest in his position to ever do that. And one of the first things he did is he led what was called the Rural Purge.
The Rural Purge.
Yeah, CBS at the time had some successful shows like Green Acres, Mayberry RFD, Hee Haw, shows like that were rural based. They had a particular audience, but it wasn't the particular type of audience that Fred necessarily wanted for CBS. Mm-hmm. So what he did is he canceled all of them.
Oh.
And there were a number of them, including like the Beverly Hillbillies, that had great ratings still, that, I was surprised that I didn't hear stories about them going to another network, but he canceled them all, cut the axe. And what he did, he was one of the first TV executives that essentially understood the importance of demographics. And he started essentially building his network to a very specific demographic. Now I'm going to go through some of the shows during his time at CBS that he helped bring into place. We're talking All in the Family.
Oh, okay.
Classic there. And I find it interesting that, there have been a couple of times throughout the years that CBS has replayed All in the Family episodes. And I know the past couple of years, Jimmy Kimmel has had a live restaging of classic All in the Family episodes with new actors playing it. But even then, they still have disclaimers at the beginning because of the content of the show.
Yeah.
The thing about All in the Family, it would not run on network TV today.
No, it would have been too offensive.
Yeah, no, but having said that, what you got to appreciate about All in the Family from day one is that the characters are not two-dimensional. Archie Bunker is a conservative jackass. He's ignorant. He loves being ignorant. He would love Fox News today, but he's still a human being. He had his moments where you cared about him. He wasn't the conservative, two-dimensional guy that most people think. There was a lot of depth to his character, and that's what made that show so interesting. Another show that Fred helped bring to place, The Mary Tyler Moore Show.
I never really watched much of either of these shows. I think they were too grown up for me at the time.
Well, thanks to Nick at Night, ended up watching more of the Mary Tyler Moore Show than All in the Family. But, you know, I ended up seeing both of them. Mary Tyler Moore, classic. MASH, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Another one. The Waltons.
I never really got into the Waltons either.
My mother loved that show. I mean, I didn't like it then. I don't like it now, but it's still one of those, you know, nostalgia shows.
It's so schmaltzy, though. What little I've seen, I've just been like, ugh.
I mean, it is what it is. And yeah, like I said, I'm not a fan of it, but the nostalgia, it brings me back. I know my mother was into it. One thing he's perfected, and one thing we can thank him for, was the fact that he essentially was the first person that took characters that he liked from one particular show and decided to give them their own show.
Oh, so he created the spin-off.
The spin-off. So stuff like The Jeffersons, Good Times, stuff like that. You know, and we'll go into some more of his spin-offs at a later point, but, you know, without that move, we wouldn't have had one of the most successful shows of the 2000s in Frasier.
Oh, was he the one who did that?
No. But he did not do that, but again, the fact that he created stuff like The Jeffersons.
Okay,
you know,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So
honestly, though, I think Frasier's overrated. I don't really like it.
Well, okay then. Gosh.
Expressing my opinion.
I know.
I'm allowed to have them.
You are. He also had a hand in Saturday morning cartoons for CBS during that era. One show that he helped develop, he wanted to put together some teens that ended up solving crimes. And the pilot that they ended up putting together just wasn't coming together. He didn't know what exactly was going on, and he got on a plane, put on a Frank Sinatra song, was listening to it, and the end of the song, Strangers in the Night, Sinatra starts scatting and goes Scooby-Dooby-Doo, doo-doo-doo-dee-da. We have Fred Silverman to thank for Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
In fact, the lead character of the mystery gang, Fred, named after Fred Silverman. We also have him to thank for game shows. He reintroduced game shows. There was a game show that was on in the 50s that ended up getting canceled that he decided he was going to bring back. You may have heard of it. It's called The Price is Right.
Oh, I love The Price is Right.
Yep. He also brought the match game in the 70s. I've only seen that in reruns after the fact on stuff like the Game Show Network. But
yeah, same here. But God, I love that. I love the match game.
Yeah. But once he had some success at CBS, other networks came calling. The next network he went to in 1975 was ABC. At that point, they had never been in the number one spot ever. And they were looking to do just about anything. And one of the shows that they had that was, thanks to Fred Silverman in a ratings decline that needed some help, was Happy Days.
Oh.
So what he did is he helped, through his maneuvering as the head of programming, was able to put Happy Days in a spot to where it was able to get an audience and get popular. Mm-hmm. Again, speaking of spin-offs, we have him to thank for Laverne and Shirley. We have him to thank for Mork and Mindy.
What about Joni and Chachi?
He should pay for that. My goodness. Not everybody deserved a spin-off, especially Scott Baio. Fuck that guy. He also brought a number of other shows to ABC. We're talking The Bionic Woman, a spin-off of The $6 Million Man. Mm-hmm. Do you remember Family?
No.
It was an early Aaron Spelling drama, more serious than stuff like what he did on The Love Boat, but that's where Christy McNichol first hit it big, and Meredith Baxter Burney was on that show as well. We have him to thank for Charlie's Angels, Three's Company, 8 is Enough.
Wow. Yeah, those are all classics.
Yeah. Fantasy Island, he created Good Morning America.
Wow.
Yeah.
What didn't he do?
He also was responsible for one of the people responsible for bringing Roots to television.
Wow.
So we have him to thank for that. Yeah, then after that... Oh, wait, he also helped with their daytime programming. Expanded General Hospital and One Life to Live for a full hour. I remember coming home from school in those days, and on ABC at 3 o'clock, General Hospital always hit.
Yep.
And my mother had that on and would constantly watch that. He also helped bring to the network for the first time Family Feud.
God, I love Family Feud. I like the old ones. I don't like the new ones. I like the old ones with Richard Dawson and his constant smooching of everybody.
Yeah, come here. At least we didn't have to hear about his Bob Crane stories on that show. For folks that don't know, Richard Dawson was in a TV show in the 60s called Hogan's Heroes, a wacky comedy set in a concentration camp. And the star of the show was notorious for having the most unique sex life. Let's put it that way. And ended up getting brutally murdered because of it. There was a movie, forgot the name of it, but Greg Kinnear starred as Bob Crane in that movie. But anyway, from there, he moved to NBC, where he didn't have as much success as he did with the others, but he still had some major impact. Now, one impact that he had was there was a comedian that he was able to get a morning show for. That show was the David Letterman Show.
A morning show?
Late Night with David Letterman actually started off as a morning show. And
who wants to see Dave Letterman that early in the morning?
Nobody did.
Yeah.
And the morning show was not a success. However, around this time as well, Johnny Carson sued NBC and was able to get two things. One, the rights to all the tapes from his show. Also, he was able to get producing rights for another show that would happen after his show went off the air, because before this, what most people don't remember is that The Tonight Show was actually, I believe, a 90-minute show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he went, and thanks to the lawsuit, it went down to an hour, and then that created some time at the 12:30 slot. So what did they do? Created Late Night with David Letterman.
And then eventually Letterman moved away to CBS.
Yeah. But we have Fred Silverman to thank for that. He helped launch Hill Street Blues. He helped develop Different Strokes, The Facts of Life, Give Me a Break. Brought the TV show Card Sharks to TV that was hosted by, I believe, Bob Eubanks.
Card Sharks?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Bob Eubanks.
No, that was Bob Eubanks. I got Wikipedia up right here.
That kind of tall guy who kind of looked like the Count from Sesame Street. He had a very round face.
No, it was Bob Eubanks.
Oh, was it Bob Eubanks?
It was Bob Eubanks.
All right, I've got it.
Don't question my TV knowledge.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
No, I've got him confused. It must be some other game show I'm thinking of that involves like cards.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple more things too that he helped develop. There was a game show that he brought to NBC, a little show called Wheel of Fortune. And thanks to him, the initial host of that show was Chuck Woolery, and he ended up leaving the show. And Fred Silverman helped hire this, I believe, Nashville weatherman by the name of Pat Sajak.
Pat Sajak, yeah.
Yep. And speaking of Saturday morning cartoons as well, he helped develop this cartoon that was based on, I believe, either Swedish or I forgot the nationality where they originally came from, but we have him to thank for the Smurfs.
They were Smurfs, I think, are Danish.
Yeah, something like that. But he brought them to America, had Hanna-Barbera once again, do the animation for them, but definitely had his impact there. He left NBC in '81, helped produce, he became a producer at that point, and we have him to thank for the Perry Mason TV movies. Where they brought back the original cast of Perry Mason, but instead of a regular TV show, it was just TV movies that would appear occasionally. We have him to thank for Matlock, Jake and the Fat Man, In the Heat of the Night, Father Dowling Mysteries, Diagnosis Murder. So he definitely had a huge impact on modern pop culture.
Yeah, he did. Wow. Busy guy.
Yeah. And again, he's not one of those names that most people are going to be familiar with, but when someone who's had this much of an impact passes away, you got to take the time to acknowledge that impact and thank him for what he did.
Thanks, Fred Silverman.
There you go. All right, you were reading the news.
Yep, I have a subscription to the Washington Post, and I was reading an article there today about this class in Georgia Police Academy. An entire class was fired from their jobs because they all cheated on the final exam at the police academy. And I was just like, every single one in the class cheated? Yep, every single one of them cheated. They were sharing answers on like chat apps, and like someone got their girlfriend to log into the online thing and take the test for them. Just all this crap. I'm just like looking at this, I'm like, and this, folks, is why people don't trust the police. It's like, if you're going to be a police officer, you need to be following the law to the letter. You need to be a moral person. You need to be a good person in general.
Yeah.
Because we shouldn't be trusting just any Joe off the street with guns and the power to like change people's lives permanently. And I just was shocked and disgusted that I think it was 31 police cadets all cheated on a test, and they all thought that it was okay and that they could get away with it. What possesses someone to think that it's okay to cheat on things? I never will understand this. I never understood it when I was a kid, and people would like ask me to help them cheat on their homework and on tests and things, and I'm just like, no, it's wrong. It's fundamentally wrong.
Well, I mean, I will preface what I'm going to say with, at the end of the day, I like most people, I do realize that there are good cops out there, and when, it is important for people to acknowledge this and, showcase the stories of good cops doing good things. Having said that, in the last 20 years especially, what I've noticed is cops becoming a lot more militant. There is definitive proof around the country that you have white supremacists joining the ranks of police officers, when you would think that would be something that they would want to not have in the mix, especially with the media being hypervigilant now when it comes to police abuse and whatnot. And then you see stories of, like, there was a story I saw of a cop who, in his jurisdiction, had to wear a body camera, but was still able to plant drugs on people with that body camera plainly showing what he was doing, and got a few people put in jail because of it.
That's ridiculous. As to the militant part, I think some of the reason why a lot of the police forces are becoming more militant is because we've been in a constant war since 2001. And a lot of people who come into the police force are ex-military. And if they've been at war in a war zone, and then they're coming into a civilian situation where, you're dealing with civilians, you're not dealing with criminals, you're not in a foreign country, it can be probably hard to switch the brain. And so that's a matter of, that's a training issue.
That, but also the police forces around the country are getting their hands on weapons that they just don't need.
That's true too.
Like tanks, and I don't care the size of the city. There's no logical reason for a police force to have a tank. Or I remember during the Occupy Wall Street protests that happened in New York, the police force had a sound cannon that they were shooting at the people in the park that were occupying it. Which, again, why do the cops need a sound cannon? Speaking of New York, they raised some money for police officers to hang out in the subways to arrest people that that are fare jumpers or whatever. We're talking folks that don't pay the $2 or $3 or whatever to get on the subway. Like they had this one video that I saw on Twitter, like the whole army of cops came with guns drawn to arrest a guy who jumped a fare.
That's ridiculous too.
It's extremely excessive, and again, cops are needed. Cops can do good things. Cops, there are times when there's a lot that cops do that in a lot of ways it is a thankless job. But
it is definitely a thankless job, and I do have a lot of respect for the good police officers out there. I just wish that it didn't seem like there were so many bad apples.
Well, part of that is to do with the media, unfortunately.
Yeah, and of course when bad things happen, they focus on it. Like this entire class at the police academy. But I think mostly the point I wanted to make by bringing up this article is that we need to have better standards in general for everybody. I think just to some extent that if you're going to be in a position of power, you need to be a good... if you want to think about it in D&D terms, you need to be lawful good. You can't be chaotic neutral.
That...
or chaotic evil,
But what I think people, the general public needs to do as well is they need to have a healthy dose of skepticism anytime anybody in power, because you hear too often about, cops that unloaded an entire clip into a 12-year-old boy only for the DA to say, oh, nothing bad happened, and then nothing happens to the cop in question.
Yeah.
They need to, people in positions of power, whether it's cops, politicians, whatever, need to be held to a higher standard.
I agree with you there. And I just I get so frustrated when people are like, but it was just a test. Yeah, the test that they all cheated on was about using radar guns and stuff like that. And that's pretty important when a lot of your job is catching people who are speeding and you have to use certain equipment properly. And come on. It's ridiculous. And get this. They use more technology in making sure that a person like myself doesn't cheat on their pharmacy technician national exam than they did for police officers who are going to be carrying guns and driving really souped up fast cars. When I went and took my pharmacy technician exam, I had to put my phone, my purse, everything that I owned that I brought with me into a locker in the lobby, and then they double checked my pockets. I had to turn my pockets out to show them I didn't have anything on me. They supplied me with a calculator, and then I had to take the test on a computer at this specific testing center. And seriously, and granted, I need to be held to a certain standard because of the job that I do, but at the same time, so should a police officer.
Yeah. I had a similar experience when I took the A+ certification from CompTIA for computer repair. Again, it was putting any sort of communication device that could speak to the outside world in a separate container that you do not have access to while you're taking that test.
And they had to be computers at the testing center that you would not have any access to augment them. I mean, it's the same way when I took the Windows certification exams way back when too. You go to like one of those specific testing centers and you do it. Why don't they I'm pretty sure the state of Georgia is going to be reviewing, it said in the article they were going to be reviewing all of their test taking and things of that nature, and more than likely they're going to have to go to some kind of certified testing center now from now on to do some of their stuff.
Yeah.
Or have some kind of third party involved to make sure that everybody's being honest and nobody's cheating. It's just...
Still, though, when they got a governor who stacked the deck against his political opponent when he was running for governor, he was the Secretary of State, but started shedding people from the voting list because, oh my gosh, he was a Republican. You know, I know that's pretty rare in this country for Republicans to actively cheat like that. But, stuff like that's from the top down. It's a cancerous culture that any reasonable person of any political affiliation will say needs to be fixed.
Yep, I would agree. And I just was stunned that 30 people, an entire class, cheated.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind.
Well,
anyway,
let's talk about something a little more lighthearted.
More fun.
Yeah. And that's professional wrestling. Yay!
Yay!
Kim's so excited.
Well, I am excited that we're going to be going to see some wrestling live in a couple weeks.
Yep, and we'll be doing a bonus episode when that occurs as well.
Yeah.
But this past weekend, the Royal Rumble occurred.
The Royal Rumble?
Yeah. She's like, what's that?
Well, I have an idea that it involved a lot of people and there was a lot of fighting.
The Royal Rumble, for folks that don't know, is a match that happens it's a pay-per-view, but the Royal Rumble refers to a specific match as well that happens every January. The concept of the match is there are 30 participants, 2 people start out in the ring, and then every 90 seconds thereafter someone else comes out until all 30 people are out. The last person in the ring is the winner.
That sounds kind of crazy.
It's one of those made-for-TV type of deals. When the Royal Rumble first debuted in 1988, Vince McMahon thought it was a bad idea, but he allowed the guy who created it, Pat Patterson, to tell the idea to Dick Ebersol, who was a high-up executive at NBC, but also did some major work with the World Wrestling Federation when they first got Saturday Night's Main Event and helped them with, essentially upping their production game. Instead of looking like a dark, dank, smoky building with old guys and whatnot, he upped the production to essentially what we know it is today.
And here I am stuck on the guy's name, Pat Patterson.
Yeah.
His parents hate him?
Well, he was from Canada.
As I see names a lot that I'm just kind of like, why did your parents hate you? Why?
Well,
anyway, go on. I'm sorry. My brain just clung on to that little detail, and I'm like, what? Pat Patterson? What? Okay, go ahead.
It's not like Robbie Robertson from the band. Anyway, the Royal Rumble occurred. It was, thanks to the young lady that we mentioned a couple weeks back from the Rope Talk Wrestling podcast. On her Twitter, she actually took her phone and aimed it at her computer that was playing the Royal Rumble on the WWE Network, so people were able to, like I did. I don't have the WWE Network now, and thanks to her feed, I was able to watch the show this year, so thank you for that. But we'll go down a list of the matches that occurred, and if there's something important that we need to discuss, then we will. Not all the matches need a 10-minute lecture or anything like that. But we had 2 matches on the pre-show. The first match was Sheamus, who was returning from injury, defeated a wrestler by the name of Shorty G.
Okay.
Yeah, the Shorty G name is thanks to creative thinking it's absolutely 100% hilarious to do short jokes all the time.
Sure.
It's a bad gimmick given to a good wrestler. Not the first time that's happened in the WWE, not the last time. The other match that occurred on the pre-show was for the United States Championship. Andrade, the champion, defeated Humberto Carrillo to retain the title. The match that opened the show was a Falls Count Anywhere match. The Royal Rumble, by the way, happened at Minute Maid Park in Houston, where the Astros played, so a big baseball stadium. And Roman Reigns ended up defeating King Corbin, but it was interesting. They actually went out into the crowd, and the match ended on top of the dugout at the baseball stadium. So
that's not gimmicky at all.
It's a Falls Count Anywhere match. It would suck to advertise that. It would be bad on their part to advertise that and then have it all happen in the ring.
Okay.
Is what it is. The next match was the Women's Royal Rumble match, and the winner of that was Charlotte Flair.
Congrats.
Yeah, now, folks online were a little upset that she won. The WWE does tend to favor her for good reason. I mean, she's a talented performer. The lineage, of course, her father is the Nature Boy Ric Flair. But word came out after the Rumble of something interesting occurring, because initially people thought that Charlotte Flair would be challenging Becky Lynch at WrestleMania for the title. That may not be the case. And this may have to tie into NXT TakeOver Portland when we go.
Oh.
Because the word is that Charlotte Flair will be facing off against Rhea Ripley, the NXT Women's Champion, for the title at WrestleMania. So if that ends up being the case, there is a strong chance that when we go to that show, we're going to see Charlotte Flair.
Okay, cool.
So that'll be fun. The next match, Bayley, the SmackDown Women's Champion, defeated Lacey Evans. The next match after that, Bray Wyatt defeated Daniel Bryan in a strap match for the Universal Championship. Then you had Becky Lynch defeating Asuka to retain the Raw Women's Championship. And then the match that closed the show was the Men's Royal Rumble match. And we did have one rather newsworthy event happen.
Okay.
Yeah, at number 21, the clock went down to 0. The buzzer hit. And returning for the first time in over 9 years was Edge.
Okay.
And you're like, the guitar player for U2 is in the WWE now? No.
Well, that would be The Edge.
Okay, yeah, it's not The Edge, just Edge. The reason this is newsworthy is in 2011, Edge actually had to retire. He had to retire because at that time it was discovered that he had pretty severe neck issues. With the types of matches he had over the years, it was shocking that it didn't happen sooner. But he had to get triple fusion neck surgery.
Oh.
And for the longest time, they thought he would never come back. But
yeah, a lot of people don't do well after fusions. It's like basically the whole point of when you do a fusion surgery is to help eliminate pain. You're not going to have the same kind of range of motion or performance that you may have had in the past.
yeah,
They're mainly just trying to eliminate pain and help slow any degeneration of the nerves or the bones in that area. So if he's back wrestling, that's pretty huge.
it is huge. I mean, the WWE is a publicly traded corporation with stuff like the Owen Hart incident in '99, where Owen Hart actually died in the ring from an accident that went wrong. They're not going to allow anybody into a ring unless they are 100% sure that it is not going to be an issue.
I don't know. I think if I was that guy or that guy's family, if I was that guy's wife, let's just put it this way. If I was that guy's wife, I'd be like, no. How much money are they offering you? No. It's not worth your life.
His wife is wrestler Beth Phoenix, and she was in the Women's Royal Rumble match earlier in the show.
Well, I guess maybe if I was a wrestler too, I would see it differently. But honestly, as a civilian, I think I would be like,
yeah.
no.
Well, the thing to keep in mind is this. He is back now. So this wasn't a one-time deal. When he came to the ring, it was really emotional. I mean, when it happened and his music started playing, I started cheering, and I was watching it, from the comfort of my own bedroom, and probably pissed the neighbors off at that point too. But
who cares? They cheer all the time when there's football on. So
yeah. But, seeing him back, seeing the emotion on his face, I mean, because for the briefest of seconds, you could tell that he was fighting back tears. And the big thing here is that, he thought his career ended, that he would not be able to finish his career the way he wanted to.
Well, for most people, that would be a career-ending injury.
And understandably so.
Understandably so. He must have some incredible doctors and some really good physical therapists to be able to come back from something like that, because that's unheard of. I don't think I can think of any major sports figure who's had some kind of injury like that and then decided to come back into the sport.
Well, for regular sports, I agree there. I mean, wrestling is different because it would taking Edge into account here. He's not going to be back full time. He's going to do essentially 4 or 5 matches per year, and then the build up to those particular matches. So he's a part-time star, and he will essentially be used to elevate other stars.
To bring in ticket sales, bring people to come to the events.
Yeah, that, and I suspect too that he's not gonna be in any sort of tables, ladders, and chairs matches that helped contribute to his neck issues. It's gonna be a standard match. Maybe they would do a no disqualification match, because sometimes when guys have injuries, they will put them in a no disqualification match, and you as the viewer think it's, oh my god, rough and tumble and vicious, but a lot of the quote unquote weapons that they use in those types of matches are gimmicked. So they can get away with making it look a lot more vicious than it actually is. So he's going to be protected, and it's just great to see somebody be able to live out their dreams again.
Yeah, wow, I hope he doesn't get injured again. It's a little too easy once you've been injured to get injured again.
Yeah, and
so hopefully he'll be safe, and because if you have an injury like that already and you get injured again, it's a lot of chance that you could end up paralyzed or dead.
Yeah, rightfully so. And with the hard wrestling style that they had in the 90s and 2000s, he's got to be careful. But I think he is going to play it smart just because of the fact that he has a wife and kids.
I would hope so. I mean, he's lucky already that he isn't paralyzed or dead.
Yeah.
From the injury he's already suffered. So, I don't know. It's almost... I don't know. I think if I was one of his loved ones or even one of his management teams, and when you're on a management team, you get a cut of the money. I don't know if I would be encouraging someone to continue.
Well, again, those people are going to probably have the same type of response that the folks at the WWE had. They're gonna make absolutely sure and put him through whatever test they can think of to make sure that he's going to be okay for liability's sake, because as the wrestling podcasts that I listen to that I know you do not like at all, that go through the history of various wrestling events, or they talk about promoters and whatnot. And one thing you commonly hear, and I've heard it enough in regular sports as well, is that when those stars get injured, they don't always tell you the truth. I've heard stuff like Peyton Manning talk about knowing what to say and what to do for concussion protocols to be able to get back into the game, instead of actually taking the time to be checked out by a medical professional.
Yeah.
So athletes can and will lie. Hopefully he's going to play it smart, and I have no doubt he will, because again, why come back to put everything at risk to get carried out on a stretcher and come back in a wheelchair?
Here's an idea for a special match since he's injured. How about a bubble wrap match where they wrap the wrestlers in bubble wrap and then make them wrestle that way?
No.
It'd be funny. It'd be like pop, 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 pop as they smack into each other.
No.
Oh, come on. Can be like those big sumo suits.
No. No.
Fine. Kill my dreams. Fine.
They need to be killed.
Oh, great.
I'm kidding. All right. You were watching some TV.
Oh, yes. Netflix. I had finished up Rain, which I talked about last week. And I'm like, oh, what do I want to watch next? I turn on Netflix. Well, there's an ad right there for a show called Next in Fashion. And if you like reality competition TV like Project Runway, you will like Next in Fashion. 10 episodes, easily bingeable. I have watched the entire series already. It is hosted by Tan France, who is one of the Queer Eye guys, and Alexa Chung, who is a model and presenter, and she's a designer and she's a writer. She does a lot of stuff. And I like both of them really well. They have really good chemistry as hosts. So I am really looking forward to season 2. And this season starts with 18 contestants. 10 episodes later, you have the final 2, and then you have a winner. And
well, what's the whole point of the show?
Basically, the whole point is to win $250,000. That's the whole point. So,
but what do you got to do to get to that point? What do you got to do?
Yeah. You got to create looks. They give you a theme. You have to create looks for that theme in 2 days. And I don't know if you've ever sewn clothes.
Oh, God, no.
It's not easy to do in 2 days. So usually they would give them a theme. Some of the themes they did, I don't know if I wanted to. Yeah, I'll give you some of the ideas. They had an underwear episode. They had a denim episode. They had a rock and roll episode. Rock and roll. They had an episode based on activewear. You know, it's all the basic fashion genres. And they give them a theme, and then so they start off working in pairs, and then at a point about halfway through they split them into singles. And they had what I liked about this show, other than other fashion shows I've watched, fashion reality shows that I've watched, is they had a lot of people from all over the world. It wasn't just America and Canada. Because a lot of times Project Runway really focuses on America and Canada.
Well, you got to think, though, Project Runway is, its primary location is a cable network in America.
I know, but it's watched around the world. But, yeah, this is definitely... because it's Netflix, they were just
and that was my point. You know, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what channel Project Runway is on now. I believe VH1
Lifetime
or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's an American channel. That's not necessarily going to be available in Mongolia. But Netflix will be. Yeah,
Netflix is available everywhere, basically. If you've got internet, you can get Netflix. Granted, like Netflix for the UK has different licensing than the US. You get a lot of different shows. But what I've noticed about Netflix is they're putting a lot of their quote-unquote foreign shows on the American version of Netflix, so that I think they've realized, hey, Americans like to watch British TV.
Yeah,
and I mean, the two hosts they had are both British, so...
Hello.
Yep, exactly. And not quite like that, but... Anyway, if you like Project Runway, you like One Way. If you like competition reality shows, I think you'll like this. Like I said, the hosts have really good chemistry. It's really fun to watch. And what's kind of cool about it versus Project Runway is Project Runway, they always give them a budget and they send them to the fabric store to get fabric before they start. This show, there's no budget, but they have like this sort of in-house store with a big selection of fabric and stuff, and they have to use that. And sometimes they can design their own prints.
Okay.
Which is fun, too.
Yeah.
It's fun to see what people come up with. Tim is just like, you're weird, Kim. Why do you watch this shit?
It's the same reaction you had when I talked about the Royal Rumble.
That's true. I mean, well, it's yeah.
You don't have to defend it. I mean...
It's, I find a lot of sport type stuff interesting, but only if I'm actually watching it, and I don't seek that out.
Yeah.
Whereas I do like some kind of, some brainless reality TV with clothes that I'll never wear, because I like to see like interesting clothing and stuff, even though it's nothing that I would ever wear.
And me, I'm a t-shirt and jeans guy, so I'm not really into fashion at all.
Yeah, I find it interesting, but they don't design for people like myself. They don't design for plus size ladies, and I value comfort and functionality over the way things look more than anything. Yeah. As I'm laying here in a Pee Wee Herman for President t-shirt and pajama pants. So
yeah, me. Yeah, let's not talk about that anyway.
All right, so let's get on to our album of the week.
And what is that?
It is Never Mind the Bollocks. It's the Sex Pistols by the Sex Pistols.
All right. Why did you choose that?
I chose it because this is one of the bands that started everything. And by started everything, I mean both punk rock and my own odd taste in music.
Well, they didn't start punk rock. The Ramones did.
No, they were active around the same time.
It is a fact. I mean, the Ramones started first. They toured England, and then bands like the Sex Pistols, the Clash, and whatnot got together. So,
okay, that's not how I read it, but okay.
Yep.
At any rate, this is one of the first punk bands. It has influenced. If you think of like a popular band today, like a pop punk band or whatever, they're going to be influenced by the Sex Pistols. And the Sex Pistols, they were controversial. They had record factories going on strike. The workers refusing to work on their music. Basically, people were so offended by things like God Save the Queen and Anarchy in the UK that the workers were walking off the production lines, because they didn't want to have anything to do with those records. And I'm just kind of like, seriously? But it was the 70s. So this album came out in 1977. So it was a different time, more conservative, that sort of thing. But yeah,
Yeah, and this is, I believe, one of the first, at least in England, because the album had different record companies in different parts of the world. But in England, this is one of the first big releases from Virgin Records.
Yeah, because eventually it ended up being released on Virgin. There was a lot of controversy and going back and forth. They ended up having like 3 different record labels.
Well, I know in America, Warner Brothers released the album. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Anyhow, so I picked the album because, like I said, this is one of the first albums it was one of those albums that definitely has influenced my taste in music. I heard it because a friend of mine had it on cassette, and they let me borrow it for a weekend, and so I listened to it multiple times on my little Walkman, and it was one of the first albums I ever heard that had cuss words on it.
Ooh.
I know.
Naughty.
I was really shocked when we got to track 2, and it was like, fuck this and fuck that. I was like, what? Blew my little, I think I was in 4th or 5th grade. Blew my mind.
Okay then.
Blew my little mind.
All right, let's go through the tracks.
Track 1, Holidays in the Sun. It's a good song. It starts it off pretty hardcore. I mean, that sort of, the drums with this sort of tromping noise, it sounds a lot like boots.
Yep.
Marching boots. It is a very strong beginning. I think that there's thinly veiled references to Vietnam and wars in other countries here, because it talks about holidays, well, obviously holidays in the sun, and a lot of places that we've gone to war are in very sunny, warm places.
Well, they actually wrote this song about a vacation they were able to take in Berlin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I guess, I part of me likes to do research about the history behind songs. Part of me likes to interpret them the way I want to.
Well, that's the beauty of a good song. They can, a good song can be interpreted in ways that the original artist did not intend.
Yeah.
I think I forgot the name of it, but there's a track on Blues Travelers 4 that Christians really latched onto, and the lead singer of the band, John Popper, was like, "We're not Christians. This was not a Christian song. I don't know why people want to listen to it."
Yeah. Part of me, when I hear this song, and then actually when I first heard the song Holiday in Cambodia by the Dead Kennedys, I was definitely reminded of this song. I guess the Holiday in Cambodia, because it's about Vietnam, obviously, and Vietnam War.
Well, the Holidays in Cambodia was actually Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys wrote it about people that would proclaim to support other folks, but then not really put the effort in to do that. Essentially, is making fun of like college kids who would be for every and all causes, but at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, if you ask those same people to actually do some work to help contribute to that cause, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
As far as Holidays in the Sun, same as you, I love the marching sound effects that started the song. The notes I had was that it was a nice upbeat song to start the album. It doesn't overpower the bigger tracks, but it was what it needed to be. A simple, straightforward rock track that gets you in the mood. It wasn't a ballad. It wasn't a piano riff or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just, we're the fucking Sex Pistols. We're going to kick your ass. Enjoy.
Yeah, you're not going to find any ballads on this album.
No, Johnny Rotten ballad.
Yeah, that's just, yeah. Okay, so track 2 is called Bodies. This is a song where they first used the F word. I'm not sure. I've gone back and forth about this song. I can't determine if they are against abortion or for abortion.
As in previous episodes, if the documentary is made, there's a show called Classic Albums. I was able to find this episode on the Pluto TV app in their on-demand section. And Bodies was actually written, they mentioned her by name in the song, Polly. Polly was real. Polly showed up at Johnny Rotten's doorstep one day, and according to him, had a bag with a dead fetus on the inside of it.
Jeez.
And had a number of other abortions as well. His comment about it was, it wasn't pro-abortion, it wasn't against abortion, it was just a cause to think. Which, to me, still leans towards the anti-abortion deal, because that still has the mindset that the little glob of cells that make, coagulate together after 2 weeks' time is somehow a human being.
Yeah.
Which, obviously not the case. Any realistic person out there would recognize that, and women should have the right to say what goes on with their bodies. They shouldn't be forced to carry a baby that was given to them under wrong circumstances, whether consensual or not.
Okay.
So.
Yeah,
I mean, some of the notes I had about the song itself, the opening kind of sounded like the opening build-up to the song "Back in the Saddle" from Aerosmith.
Okay.
And then they started singing about abortion. It's the lyrics kind of throw off any sort of enjoyment I could have had for the song.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty shocking to me when I first listened to this as a child.
Yeah. Because
it was like, da-da-da-da-da, it was Birmingham. It was like, she just had an abortion. I'm like, abortion?
Yeah.
And it's like, I kind of knew what that was, but I was just like, what? And then it cussed, and I was like, mind blown. Anyway. Track 3 is called No Feelings, and it's all about being selfish.
All right.
I love this song, honestly. It's a good breakup song, I think. Oh, the cats decided to join us.
Yeah, this is Peach.
Princess Peach.
Yeah.
You gonna talk? You come closer?
You're gonna be on the show. What do you think about the Sex Pistols? Yeah?
What do you think about the Sex Pistols? You gonna say something loud? No, she's just gonna be quiet.
Okay.
Okay. Alright. So, No Feelings, what did you think about the song?
It made me think of MTV News. Because the opening track, the opening of that song, it kind of reminds me of that Megadeth song "Peace Sells, but Who's Buying?" That MTV News, ripped off for It kind of had that same type of feeling. Now, obviously, the Megadeth song came later, so they would be the ones aping the Sex Pistols, but it did have that. Otherwise, it's a very basic rock song. It was forgettable more than anything else. It doesn't. It's not Anarchy in the UK. It's not Holidays in the Sun. This is a forgettable track. It's not bad. If you're listening to the album straight through, you're gonna have an enjoyable experience listening to this, but it's just not memorable.
I don't know. I kind of disagree with you for not being memorable. It's one of my favorite songs on the album, just because it's got a really good beat.
And you can dance to it.
Yeah. But no, it's very catchy in a way. It's actually probably one of the most pop songs on the album. Just because it's so just the way it's written, it's very. I almost want to say it's formulaic, but since these are some of the people who started the formula, I guess.
Well, to your point though, it's kind of like watching I Love Lucy now. I Love Lucy created the format of the 3-camera sitcom, but watching it now compared to the years upon years of television that has made major advancements in how to present a 3-camera sitcom makes I Love Lucy look quaint. You don't necessarily appreciate how groundbreaking and revolutionary it was. So.
Okay. All right. Track 4 is called Liar. I'm kind of torn on this one because part of me likes the song a lot because when you've been wronged by someone who lied to you, it's kind of cathartic to listen to and just scream along with it, like lie, 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 lie. I mean, why? Just like, you're a liar. I hate you. Sort of a feeling. And it's good to get that out.
It is good, but if we're going by that rationale, I'd rather go with the Rollins Band version of Liar over this.
No, I like this one better. It's more it's faster.
I didn't like it. This is one of the weak tracks, in my opinion. Johnny Rotten was tripping over his lyrics. The music itself was weak. It just didn't do anything for me.
All right, then. Yeah. Track 5 is called Problems. The problem is you. So what you gonna do? That's some of the lyrics from it.
Well, this is more straightforward, simple rock. It's basic, but the beauty of what punk rock can do is, that basic music that they have with what they call 2.5 chords. They can still create so much emotion with just the music alone, and then you take Johnny Rotten, who not the greatest singer in the world, but you don't pay Johnny Rotten to sing an opera for you.
No, you're paying him to scream and yell and get pissed off, and he's really good at doing that.
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons why I like this song, is because you're just like, it's another one of those fuck you songs that if you're having a bad day, the problem is you.
So what can I do?
Exactly. It's a good song to listen to when you've had a bad day at work. I know all about that. All right, track 6, God Save the Queen.
We mean it, man.
This was very controversial in its time because they were not happy with the state of the UK, because in the 70s it wasn't the best place to live. People were on strike all the time. There weren't many opportunities for young folks. And when everybody's going on strike, that means there's garbage in the streets. It was just not a good time in Britain's history.
It's a classic.
And it is a classic.
It's a classic.
It's a classic disaffected youth anthem.
Angry, sarcastic. It's basic, but again, I think the music helps serve the lyrics by being basic, just because this is just a song about being pissed at your government failing you, which, hindsight being 2020, is awfully funny with Johnny Rotten now being a big supporter of people like Donald Trump and Boris Johnson in England.
Oh, Boris Johnson is so creepy. Ugh.
Yeah.
What is it with, like, creepy conservative guys with bad hair?
I don't know.
Why do people like them so much?
If I only knew. I mean, I don't know.
Well, Boris Johnson and President Trump. The problem is you! So what you gonna do? They are the problem.
Yeah.
Alright. Do you have anything else to add on God Save the Queen?
It's a classic. Listen to it.
Yep. Alright, track 7, 17. There's part of me that likes this song. There's part of me that kind of, about this point in the album, I'm just like, when are we going to get to, like, Pretty Vacant? Because that's the song I like that's coming up. But, you know, there's the line, you're only 17, you've got a lot to learn. That's so true. When you're at that age, you feel like you know everything. Yeah. You've got it all handled. But no, Johnny Rotten's telling you, you're only 17, you got a lot to learn. And when your mommy dies, she will not return.
Yeah, that's why mine's in the closet right now.
Yep.
For me, I didn't care for it. Another meh song. I mean, some of the lyrics were okay. I like the lyric, I'm a lazy sod. But the lyrics, for the most part, were nonsense. The opening of the song kind of sounded like an opening of an Allman Brothers song.
What?
I
don't understand where you're getting this Allman Brothers and Aerosmith and...
Just similar types of sounds, right, Peach? Do you agree?
Peach doesn't care.
Yeah, okay. Fine.
She's not a punk. She's a diva. There's a difference. Alright, so you didn't have anything to say about 17.
Yeah, I mean, this is one to skip.
Okay. Track 8. Anarchy in the UK.
Another classic.
It's coming sometime. That's what it says.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a classic, and honestly, I don't know what else I can say beside that, because if you haven't heard the song Anarchy in the UK, or you haven't heard God Save the Queen, you obviously have no idea what punk music is about.
I mean, the buzzsaw guitar that opens and
I mean, come on.
The note I put is that this is the type of song that by federal law you have to turn your stereo up to maximum volume when you listen to it. I mean, just
by federal law.
Yeah, it's just loud, intense. They didn't need to make another album of music because this is one of the best songs ever made.
It is. It's one of the best punk songs ever made, and if you haven't heard this song, do yourself a favor. Bring up YouTube, Spotify, something like that. Listen to it once, twice, 10 times. You'll see what we mean.
Yep.
Alright, track 9 is called Submission. And it's got a much different sound than a lot of the other songs on this album. So it starts out with this really strong bass line. And it's a lot slower. Not a lot slower. It's not like a ballad or anything like that. But it's all like... Dun, 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 dun. On a submarine mission for you, baby.
I didn't care for it. I do concede that maybe it's a victim of track placement. You know, like a similar complaint I've had with other albums, and that's, you know, how could you possibly follow up Anarchy in the UK? You know, you put anything after that song, it's not going to live up to it. You know, when you've been given a gourmet meal, and then the next thing you're given is a hot dog. You
have a gourmet meal and then they give you Jell-O for dessert.
Something like that. You know, it's again. I think my issue with the song is just its placement. You know, coming after Anarchy in the UK, it's not going. You're not, but it does speak to peaks and valleys. I mean, this brings you down to the valley.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, this bass line kind of reminds me of I don't know. Hello, I love you. Won't you tell me your name?
The Doors.
Yeah, doesn't it kind of have that vibe?
Speaking of that, I believe they did mention that the Doors, for this particular song in that classic album show, was one of the influences for that song.
Yeah. It just occurred to me as I was kind of humming that, like, wait a second.
But the Allman Brothers is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Aerosmith is ridiculous.
Yeah.
No.
Because the Doors are much more, the Doors are more punk than both of those bands.
It's not about being punk. It's about being influenced by music.
Yeah, and the Doors are much more subversive than Aerosmith or the Allman Brothers. Anyway.
They've all did plenty of drugs.
Doing drugs does not necessarily make you subversive.
It got Whitney Houston into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's a good point. All right. Track 10, Pretty Vacant. I like this song a lot because it makes me think of all those, like, idiotic people that just don't have anything between their ears, yet they're, like, adored for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So you're pretty. You're pretty vacant. And we don't care.
I didn't care for this. The opening I thought was horrible, and it sounded repetitive to me. I mean, and the note I had is that it has the same lyrical flow as a number of other songs on the album that by the time you get to this, you just don't have any interest. Okay. And, you know, maybe, I mean, some of the guitar work was alright, but it just sounded too derivative of other music from that era, and just the lyrics, how it was written, just sounded too similar to other tracks on the album that I just didn't care for this. It wasn't my thing.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, this band they didn't come together for their love of music. They were basically a manufactured product.
Yeah, like the Monkees.
So it makes sense that all your criticisms are valid in that regard. So for me, the next couple tracks are kind of the throwaway tracks. I'm not a huge fan of either of the next two tracks. The next track's New York, and it's basically about how much they don't like the people who live in New York. That's pretty much what I got from it.
I put in my notes here that for New York, I don't know if this track belonged on the album. One of the worst tracks. It didn't. I think if you did away with this track, the album doesn't need it.
I mean, it's just there. It's like, hey, we've got this track. We've still got space on the album.
We gotta fill time.
Let's fill it up. Yeah. And then track 12 is called EMI, and that's about their first record label. And
well, that one I thought was a nice way to end it. As I put in my notes here, it's not the greatest song in the world, but it does have a nice way to end everything that we've heard.
Yeah, plus like the last lyric is goodbye.
Yeah.
So I mean, that works in that regard, but like I said, it's kind of a throwaway song. It's just there. And honestly, they could have just ended it on Pretty Vacant and been good.
Yeah.
So, that's the album.
It's a classic.
It's a classic. I mean, it's nothing that's I don't know, part of me wants to say that it's not very earth-shattering or groundbreaking, but at the time it was. So I don't know what I'm saying, honestly.
Well, I think it's just
because I've listened to it too many times now that it's no longer earth-shattering or groundbreaking for me personally.
Well, it's like the argument I made. It's like the argument I made earlier about I Love Lucy. I mean, it's when take a movie, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Star Wars, the first movie when that came out was earth-shattering, groundbreaking. Now the first Star Wars movie is quaint. You know,
it is. Yeah, I see what that's basically what this album is for me.
Yeah,
it's like Star Wars. It was earth-shattering and groundbreaking when I first heard it, And now that I've heard it so many times throughout my life, I mean, if you think about it, this album came out in 1977. This album came out when I was 4 years old.
I was 1.
So, I mean, it's been out for a long time. I've heard it a lot. So...
Yeah, we go from this, though, to Johnny Rotten being on Judge Judy.
Yeah, that's true. He was on Judge Judy on the 90s. But, you know, let's just forget about the 90s stuff. Just listen to this and enjoy it for what it was.
Yeah, their only real album. It
is. It's the band's only real album before they all fell apart, started hating each other, and Sid Vicious died.
Yeah.
So you can also, if you really want to, watch the movie Sid and Nancy, which isn't very factually correct.
But Gary Oldman
is freaking amazing, and it's a fun watch. And there's a little cameo from Courtney Love in there.
One of her first movies, yeah.
Yeah. So what are we gonna listen to next week, Tim?
Well, I thought about it. One thing I forgot to do was put up a poll, so I apologize for that.
Speaking of, I put up a poll for my next one. It's on the Friends Talking Nerdy website.
The Facebook page, yeah. I saw that. She put a bunch of female artists together for people to vote on.
Yes.
And the top vote getter, by the time we record her next choice, will, of course, be the one that we discuss. Now, I forgot to put up my latest poll, so I apologize for that. So I'm just going to pull one out of the hat here. Yeah, when we talked about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I got pretty passionate about some bands that did not get into the Rock Hall. Mm-hmm. So why not showcase one of them?
Okay, which one?
Judas Priest, British Steel.
Okay.
The album that gave us Breaking the Law.
Oh my. All right. Judas Priest, British Steel. And this is on Spotify?
Yeah.
All right,
of course
excellent.
It is. But yeah, that will be my next choice. That will be what we talk about next week, and then after that, again, I'll make sure to I'll make sure in the future going forward, any of my choices will be based on a poll.
Okay.
All right. Anything else you want to say?
Going forward, a lot of my choices will not be based on a poll.
You're just gonna pull them out of a hat?
Not really pull out of a hat, and not out of my ass either. They're out of the corners of my brain, the music that's influenced me, the reason for living.
Okay.
Just
pretty deep there.
Well, for a lot of us, music is life. It's what gets us moving and keeps us going through the day, and
oh yeah.
It's always been there in my life for me at various times. It's there for me when I'm happy. It's there for me when I'm sad. It's there for me when I'm having trouble waking up. It's always there, and I love it for that.
And that's one thing we want to do on the show, kind of showcase our favorite musical choices. And if that inspires anyone else in the audience to give a listen to something that we recommend that you may not have enjoyed before, we're doing our jobs.
Yep. And most of this music that we've been talking about is available on all the various streaming platforms, either for free if you just go to YouTube and search out videos and clips and things, or if you pay for a Spotify subscription, that sort of thing. It's all out there, and expanding your musical palette, so to speak, is just as important as trying new foods, trying new bands. I've been doing that a lot lately. I've been going, hey, you like this? And then they'll suggest another band, and I'll all right, I'll give that a try. And I've done that a couple of times over the last couple of months as we've been doing the podcast, and I've discovered quite a few things I didn't think I would like. Mm-hmm. And you mentioning Billie Eilish a few weeks ago, I listened to her music, and I was like, I really like Billie Eilish. People need to quit giving her shit. She's pretty cool.
Meh.
Okay, then.
I heard like 1 minute of one of her songs and couldn't finish it. So I am not judging her musical talent. The fact that she's making money off of music means that if I did say anything negative about her talent, I would be the jackass because she's doing something right. But
she's doing what she loves and she's making money.
Yeah.
That's just amazing in general.
It's just not music for a 43-year-old white guy. And that's not the end of the world, you know?
But I think it's music for a 46-year-old white woman.
Okay.
And she's like 18. She has none of my life experience, but somehow I'm relating to her music. She's one of the albums in my poll, by the way.
I voted for the Spice Girls. So
I know you did. I saw that, and I was like, Tim's voting Spice Girls. I was thinking you were going to vote for garbage, honestly.
If I were voting seriously, I probably would have voted for them because Shirley Manson does have a great voice, and I think that's tied right now with the Liz Phair album. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. If I could talk about the day I awkwardly bought a ticket to see Spice World in theaters.
Oh, Tim.
It was that. I might as well just say it now. I don't know if it's going to win the poll, but you know, it was that at a time I had. It was winter in Michigan. The jacket I had was an Old Navy jacket that I got from an Army surplus store, but it came down. It really looked like a trench coat.
Wait, so it was an Old Navy jacket or an Old Navy jacket?
And not Old Navy, the store.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because some people don't understand the concept of the Army Navy surplus store.
Yeah, but it looked like a trench coat. It was just blue. And then I bought the ticket, and then I'm sitting in the back of the theater thinking, oh my God, if people see me with this trench coat on, they're going to think I'm jacking it, you know? And I wasn't, but still.
That's Aw, Tim, you were already a creepy old man at a young age.
Yeah, I mean, apparently, because I was the only guy in the theater.
Oh God, you were the only guy in the theater?
Yeah,
that's like when I went to see one of the Pokemon movies and I was the only person there that was like that wasn't there with a child.
Well, the theater I saw it at was the old Alpine Theater that I guess they recently did away with. The Alpine Theater in Grand Rapids was the Dollar Theater, essentially. It was second run films. So, seeing it there, it was me in the back, and then they had two other women that brought their daughters to go see Spice World. So I'm like in my 20s with a trench coat that, hey, want to see this? Feeling like that in the theaters. But still, it was an enjoyable movie.
Want to tickle my pickle?
That's never worked for me, but anyway.
I don't think that's worked for anybody. Oh.
Okay.
All right, then. I think we're done.
After this, I think we have to be.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, we will see you all next week. And remember,
it's such a good feeling to know you're alive. It's such a happy feeling. You're growing inside, and when you wake up ready to say, I think I'll make a snappy new day. It's such a good feeling, a very good feeling. The feeling you know that I'll be back when the day is new, and I'll have more ideas for you, and you'll have things you'll want to talk about. I will too. You always make each day such a special day. You know how? By just your being you. Only one person in the whole world like you. That's you yourself. I'll be back next time. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy on iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, as well as Spotify. Remember to support Friends Talking Nerdy on Patreon. Goodbye, darling.